Alright, let's get into it. It's the 12th of January 2019, second round of the new year, and lots of good things coming out of today's round. It's round number 9 at Mount off the White Tees, the Woods. So had a very different type of routine. I actually didn't have any idea when I was going to have a tee off, but I arrived at the club just with a very open mind, knowing that if I wasn't going to get a morning start or just join one of the schools where there's 4 balls that are pre-booked, I was either going to be practicing on what I have been getting momentum on the last 3 days. I've actually had a routine that's been working quite well in the last 4 days. I actually get myself putting first, and I actually get a whole bunch of lines that actually sets up a very good rhythm. And it's not just the takeaway of the putter head that I feel that's coming into my chipping. I think it's also just the smoothness, and then also just finding very good balance when I need to actually lean into a front foot, but also just finding my neutral balance, because today's round actually was a lot better in terms of my miss outright. I actually was, compared to last round 8, I was feeling that I was hitting everything off the front foot, and today I felt that I was probably way more balanced in many of the scenarios in which I had to find good ball flight. And then today was one of those days. It doesn't happen every week, but sort of once every 3 weeks you get a absolute blustering northeaster on the east coast of Durban. This wind was right up there. It must have been 40 kilometers per hour at around 7 a.m. in the morning. So already you're thinking to yourself, sure, I'd probably get more out of playing 18 holes than if I was basically in one location, just sort of working on the short game. So I felt that I was going to make it a challenge to go out there and play with anybody, which was always going to be a consideration, given that I'd be the lowest handicap in any group that hadn't actually made a 4-ball. So it was a chipping contest within the 18 holes. That's how I looked at round 9, and I already felt that there were some really good opportunities that I took and probably couldn't convert. But at the end of the day, it's the same sort of theme, where if I look at my construction and my management of my round, I seem to have those 4 bad holes. And in a case like today, the actual format was Medal Stableford. I was in a situation where I actually found myself not even thinking about triple bogey, but actually found myself on 2 occasions actually getting 3 over par, which is probably a lesson that I'd rather take now than have it come into maybe a March or an April, because those were all decision based. It's not really a consequence of a bad shot. But with the wind conditions today, some of the holes were playing very tough, and a bogey would have been a good score. But just the fact that a bad decision can actually take you 2 strokes behind the field, that is what I got out of today. So hole by hole, it was a start off the 10th. So hadn't had any practice swings with the 5-iron, and I actually decided to go down to a 3-iron because I felt that the wind was actually coming very stiff into sort of my left shoulder. So I knew that I just had to just hit a 3/4 trapped 3-iron and then just put it somewhere around the 125 meter mark. So then I know that I'd probably have some practice with the wedge or practice with the 9-iron, because I'm leaving the pitching wedge out of the bag. I unfortunately didn't hit that 3-wood very well off the tee box. I actually felt that I probably pulled out of the shot just because of I spent the morning actually doing a bit of physical activity, and I felt very fresh and loose. But at the end of the day, I hadn't actually gone through the routine that I had been building. And as I go back to, I was putting, seeing the lines, I'd move to a longish type of putt that converts into a chip, and then I'm having a much better differentiation between a decision between a chip shot, which is a 32 to 36 foot range, and then I know that with a 9-iron or a sand wedge, you are going to control the release and how much do you want to leave the ball sort of below the hole. So I felt very confident that today I was going to have a chance to practice that, and then only then I really move into the full game and hit a lot of, let's call it 6 irons, and move down to a 3 iron if I had the time beforehand. But I didn't have the time. I knew it was going to take 3 holes to get into this round, and I found myself having a double bogey on the first hole because I had put myself in the bunker for a 4th shot. So I knew it was going to be one of those days where you have to grind. And on the second hole, which was the 11th, I had wind helping me, and I could see my drive flaring a little bit to the right, so possibly not even getting to the top of the swing like I should. But that's a driver that hasn't been hit for a week, so I accepted it. I found myself in a position where I would be very lucky to get it anywhere even near the green, and I had a situation where I had to hit it lower underneath a canopy of a tree from a heavy rough situation. And if I left myself in the bunker, I had a chance of making par. But I actually hit a bump and run with a 7 iron, which I thought I did very well just to get that type of contact. I managed to actually get a bounce that came off the sand. It was very creative to see, and I just felt, okay, you've put yourself through the green, and now you've got to give yourself a chip, which could leave yourself, let's call it, maybe a 45-foot or a 50-foot distance. I didn't have a good contact, so I left myself well short, but then I boxed a putt that was definitely more than 20 foot. It had left to right break into the wind, and I knew that was going to be the theme of the day. If you were going to be against the grain and into the wind, you were going to have to hit putts that you're not normally used to actually winding up that much. And at the end of the day, you can hit the putt, and actually the ball can bobble badly en route. So at the end of the day, I was still trying to keep a smoothness within the putting stroke as I had been drilling it 3 or 4 days prior. So I'm 2 over after 2, go to the par 3, hit a decent 8 iron because I knew at the end of the day it's a very small green. I've been making a lot of mistakes on that hole where I go long left, and I actually found myself in a birdie position where I was going to have a fringe putt. The fringe putt actually came off pretty well. I got it just past the left side of the hole, so that was a good, let's call it par on my first short hole of the day. And now I'm on the 13th hole, which is always a nemesis hole. You have to hit a 3-wood or something that finds the fairway, because if you have tree trouble, then you've got a 6 or a 7 that could easily creep up on you. So I hit a 3-wood, first 3-wood of the day. Also started it off right, so that's 2, let's call it utility clubs that have started right. So alignment maybe not the issue, but just the full swing with the wood, it's taking a bit of time to get the release and the path. And I had an opportunity to maybe scramble something to the front of the bottleneck of the elevated green, and I didn't actually hit it that well. I left myself well short, so now I was in a situation where I was further than 35 yards from the front of the green, and I needed to pitch it probably 5 to 6 meters past the front, and it had that right to left slider from a high elevated slope. That pin is always a very tricky pin, and if I can leave it just below the hole, which I didn't, I only did it on my 4th shot because I left the pitch shot a little bit short. I didn't get any release, but there I had an opportunity to practice the chip, and it did work. I hit a chip with a 54, and it was perfect because I didn't get it to release past the hole, and I didn't have a stressful bogey putt coming down. I had a bogey putt to make going up, and as I stroke that hole, I'll take a 5 on a day like today. So I'm 3 over, and I'm now going into the first par 5 of the day. Some very bad scores, maybe in the round 6 and 8 on this particular par 5, but I just knew, just hit the driver. You are sort of getting wind that's coming off the left shoulder, kind of like a crosswind, but I hit a fade which actually started towards the tree line on the left of the fairway, and it actually found itself in a very good position. I actually could have attacked the green because I was 215 meters to the front of the green, and I had my partner who was actually in a lot of trouble, and I decided that I'll make the birdie the strategic way. I won't bring the water or the long left shot into play, so I hit a 9 iron and gave myself exactly 75 meters to the front. Knowing that the wind is going to hurt, I said I have to hit this 54, proper wedge program, left of the flag, and give myself an uphill birdie. And that's exactly what I did. Hit the putt exactly how I wanted to. So it was 4 for the first time, first hole of the day, where I actually put 4 good strokes together. It was a good drive, it was a good layup, then it was a very good wedge, and then I had a very, very good birdie putt. And I'll leave it at that. The next hole, unfortunately, it was a 3-club win situation. Didn't really know what club to hit. It was, the 4-iron was in the bag, and I didn't even think about it, but it should have been a 4-iron. I should have hit the abbreviated swing. It would have controlled the ball flight a bit better. I don't know why I didn't hit the 4-iron. I ended up trying to squeeze a 3-iron, and I actually didn't hit it solid at all, and I actually had a penalty, and I had to do the drop. And this is actually where a triple bogey can creep up on you. I was in the drop area where you should up and down for a 4. I actually left the first bounce of the pitch from the drop area. I left it into the grain on the slope, and then I tried the 9-iron little clip. It actually released a little bit too far, and I missed the putt coming back. So that crept on me very fast. So now I'm already, I'm 3 over on the day, and on that one hole, I gave 3 strokes to the field. So I go to +6. So that is my situation after 6 holes. Not ideal, but it's a test. It's a test of bounce back. And I hit a good drive on the stroke 1, and then hit the 3-iron that I should have hit the previous hole. And I had myself an opportunity to get a very good medal Stableford score because of the stroke 1. And it's a tough pin. Whenever it's on the high left side, I left myself just a little bit short. I had a fringe putt. Didn't hit the fringe putt the way I wanted to. If I had that shot again, I would actually do the 9-iron clip, because then I at least would get it to go past the hole. And then I would have at least maybe had a right to left to make a par and get out of there with a good score. The 17th had 2 really good shots. Well, I had 3 really good shots. I had a great tee shot with the driver, feeling much better with the drive swing. And then I gave myself a 64 to 68 meter, not a 3/4 swing sand wedge, I would say a 50% sand wedge swing with the 54 degree. I just knew as I got this ball up in the air, it was going to hang, and I had to start the ball center of the green. And it's a rock hard green, this 17th. It always plays like that. And I actually gave myself a 15-footer for birdie, which I unfortunately shaved the right side. But I had 3 good shots, and it was something that I really needed in terms of momentum. And then I went to the 18th with an opportunity to also have a stroke 5 opportunity. So the 18th was straight into that 3-club wind. The problem is you have a white tee which actually gets put on the left side of a massive canopy tree. So you actually feel that your tee shot is quite difficult because you have to hit a draw. Anything that fades off that tee, you are bringing the bunker into play or bringing the out of bounds into play. So hitting driver was an option because of the wind, but normally I would hit a 3-wood. And I hit a squeezed driver, which should have hit it. I should have got a little bit more on it to create a draw. It's just a little bit quick, and I put myself in the bunker. Made a lot of decision about whether I actually hit a 7 or 8 iron. It's weird when you actually right by the red marker, when you know normally 100 meters out, you're not thinking anything more than a gap wedge. But with a 3-club wind, considering the lie, and the pin is something like 22, 23 paces on, back left shoulder, the shot automatically moves to 135, 140, and you got to consider how this ball's going to be held up the higher you actually launch it. So I hit a 7-iron, which I thought I hit pretty well. It went through the green. Great opportunity to up and down. Unfortunately, I didn't get great contact, so I left it a little bit short. So I had a 15-footer to try and save par. So unfortunately, it bobbled against the grain and was left, but the pace was good. So finishing the front 9, or the outward 9, I'm now looking at my inward 9, and I'm thinking, well, I could definitely go 3 or 4 shots better. Started the first hole, which is a nemesis hole. You can't hit driver all the time because it brings the big tree, that's the canopy on the left side of the fairway, and it also brings the water into play. So hit the hybrid, but I actually